Hello, fellow Webtoon fans and creators. I'm Audrey, and this is the Webtoon Wave podcast. This week, I sat down with Arechan. They are the creator of Señorita Cometa on Webtoon. In this episode, Arechan and I talk about sensitive topics with her experiences growing up around cartel wars in Mexico and violence against women during that time. So if you're sensitive to those topics, please proceed with caution. I like to keep things fun and informative on the podcast, so we didn't talk about a lot of crazy details, so just proceed with caution. Now let's get into the episode. Hi Arechan, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you on today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to get into it. I know we were talking about this before recording, but I hadn't discovered your comic, Senorita Cometa, until you had requested to be on the podcast. And so I was like, how have I not known about this comic for so long?
Well, better late than never. I'm so glad you found us, and I'm glad you liked it. I'm really I can jab for hours, so this might be a little long. Sorry about that.
It is no problem whatsoever. Okay, so for our listeners who don't know you or haven't read your comics, give us an intro to you and your current comic.
Well, hello everybody, my name is Arechan. I've been doing comics with Webtoon for 10 years now, so I'm one of those OG creators, I guess you could say. Right now, I am publishing Señorita Cometa, which is a mystery, drama, action story set in a fictional country in Latin America. And I can't wait to tell you all about it. You may have read one last comic I did. It was called Luff. It was also set in a fictional comic in country in Latin America. And yeah, that's me. Hi, nice to meet you, everybody.
So how did you get into being a webcomic creator? Where did this all start for you?
Okay, so I've always liked comics, right? I started drawing comics kind of before I could even write. Because I had all these things that I wanted to, these little silly stories that I wanted to make. I remember I made a Yoshi comic because I love games too, and they would not have dialogue because I didn't know how to write, so I would just give them to my parents so that they would make up the dialogues for me. I think it's all it all came from a need to communicate, because I feel sometimes when I'm trying to make a point or have a deep conversation, I can't properly do it with just words. So and when I can't do it, it's because I put a parable in the middle kind of thing. So I feel I can communicate ideas better through stories. And at first I only shared my comics obviously with my family and then with my friends, and I honestly thought that would be kind of the end of my reach, but then I found webcomics, and I really don't remember how I found them. I think I found them through a gaming website, because I remember finding Penny Arcade, and then somehow I found RPG World by the now showrunner Ian JQ, and it was a wild time, right? It was the Wild West of comics, because you would jump from webcomic to webcomic just from the banners, be oh, this is cool art, I want to see what this is about. Or you would find a collective Hiveworks and just go through their catalog, let's see what resonates with me, right? And so I was wow, it's so cool that you can reach so much people, so many people with these medium. I want to try it myself. And the first thing I did was learn how to code because I thought you needed to have your own webpage for this. And I was I need to learn how to code, and or at the very least how to personalize my smack Jeeves or something if I was gonna use that. God, I must sound like an old lady. Yeah, grandma, let's get you to bed. Sure, grandma. But yeah, so then I had this story in my head, right? This magnum opus, everybody thinks of their first story, this is it. This is my magnum opus, the best story I've ever written in the world ever. But it, life just kept happening, right? School and relationships and work. And I just kept it in the back of my mind. And sometimes I would use the scenarios from the comics to make roleplay campaigns with my friends. And then I met El Manchi, who is my husband now. And I remember like he was the first one who took me seriously when I was like, I kind of want to make a webcomic. Everybody was like, yeah, sure, someday. um, and he was like, well, why don't you just do like 15 minutes a day of work, like planning or like drawing or sketching? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And so I had like a bunch of first drafts that never saw the light of day. A lot of like false starts. And then I got married and moved to the United States. And I was in that like in between awkward phase where I was still didn't have my work permit. So for the first time in my life, I had like nothing to do for 6 months. And so my husband was like, why don't you draw that one comic that you wanted to draw? And I was like, yeah, right? So I found Webtoon through like an ad because they were doing like one of their contests to find new talents. And it was like for Canvas, like you uploaded it to Canvas. It was called Challenge League back then.
Yep.
And so I started drawing my comic and I posted weekly for like 6 months until I got, and the night I got my work permit in the mail was the night that I was emailed by Webtoon, like, hey, do you
my
want
gosh,
to get
the
original?
timing.
Yeah, it was like serendipitous. I was like, what? It's meant to be. I have to do it. And I have not looked back.
That's actually incredible. Like the perfect timing for you. It's like, oh, like, cause if the opportunity came along, you didn't have your work permit, you'd be like so sad, right? But you got so lucky.
Yeah, and I remember when I got it in the mail and I opened it, I was crying to my husband. I was like, I'm gonna have to stop drawing the comic because it was like a whole day ordeal, right? Like making comics is so much work. And to keep a weekly schedule, I was like working on it all day while he was out at work, actually working.
Yeah.
So I was so sad. And then I got the email at the same time and I was like, yes, this is it.
So was being like when you started making webcomics, was being like a full-time comic creator like a dream for you at the time?
I always wanted to make comics, but it was kind of like the kind of dream that you have like in your back pocket. Like, sure, I would love to make like a Disney movie or something, but you're like, yeah, maybe one day, someday.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I remember thinking like webcomics would be like a fun little hobby I would have on the side while I do my real life work in graphic design, right? Because I
Oh, you
even
do
found
graphic
out.
design.
Yes, I'm a graphic
Oh,
designer.
that's what I do.
I actually got the idea like from other comic creators when I was young. And I read an interview and it was like, oh, I studied graphic design. And I was like, graphic design and you make comics. And so I really got into graphic design like that. But yeah, I was like, oh, these people studied this career but are making comics. Wow, that's amazing. I wish that would happen to me one day. But it was never like I'm actively working towards it. It literally, thank God, fell into my hands at the right moment, and it's a dream. I haven't let go since.
That's incredible. It's kind of interesting. A lot of creators I talk to, there's definitely a graphic designer to webtoon creator pipeline. Like there's multiple people.
Yeah. I think it's because you like colors and you like the storytelling, and kind of like graphic design is a little bit of like applied art, I want to call it. So like you get this story from the brand that you're doing things for, and you have to like solve their visual problems. And so it's kind of like when you have an itch like under your skin in the hand and you're scratching on top but you still have the itch, but scratching on top is the best you can do. Like, I think that's kind of like graphic design and comics. It's like trying to scratch that itch, but it's kind of there, but not.
So tell me about how you created your current comic, Señorita Cometa. How did the story come alive? What were the inspirations behind it?
Well, so the story has like a lot of me in it. I know everybody says like, oh, this is based on my personal experience, but I want to say this is kind of like based on what we in Mexico call like everybody's canon event, like in Spider-Verse. Um, I used to live in like a border state in Mexico that was just like a barely talked, like all my life. It was just like a barely talked about state full of sleepy towns. Like the biggest cultural contribution was that we had a beachfront for like a richer state just over there. And then the thing happened, which is like the presidency of Felipe Calderon, in that he was like, okay, so we're gonna do war on the cartels. And we all knew that there were drug cartels and everything in Mexico. We all knew, but it was kind of like they did their thing and they left the people like live, I guess. But when he did this, for whatever reason, like I don't know if he failed to negotiate with the cartels. I don't know. I don't want to. Like I don't have the knowledge to get too political in this. But regardless of what caused it, it happened, and I saw the immediate shift. It was like a different life, and you can tell me like the story. For those who haven't read it, the story in like Señorita Cometa is like it's a young woman living in a city that's caught in the middle of a war between two factions, right? Between two mafias, I wanted to call them. And it costs people like their peace, their loved ones, their lives. Alex's best friend goes missing, and when she goes to the authorities, they are like apathetic at best. So like Alex takes it upon herself to try to find her friend, and she starts like uncovering this like net of corruption and like crime by becoming this like phantom thief that the press names Cometa. Now, as you can see, kind of like the two mafias on the story in my real life experience of being in a territory that was being fought over by two cartels. And this whole situation, it became insane. I became used to, because people get used to it. I think that's the worst part of it, that people get used to it. You get used to recognizing the sound of gunshots and knowing that you have to take a different street in your car, or like you get used to seeing army trucks chasing narco trucks. And one of the saddest things that happen is that people are disappeared or are kidnapped. Sometimes for ransom, sometimes as a forced conscription into the cartels. And it happens so much that like there is no one that doesn't know of anyone that it happened to, or like first-hand experience even. So I can point to a friend and have a story about it. So it was pretty bad, and things never got resolved in a lot of those cases. And so when I started making the story, I had like the characters and kind of like the premise of Phantom Thief and everything in my head before for a different kind of setting. But when these things started happening, I kind of like wished, I was like, oh, I wish Alex was real and she would bring people back and she would get the bad guys and she would, and this and that. So I started making it out of like frustration because I wanted to have that moment of like justice is being made, even if I had to make it myself, even if it was just like a story that I could tell myself after a long day. And when we were going to pitch another comic to Webtoon after Luff, I had a romantic comedy with high schoolers and stuff. It was going to be like really quirky, really fast paced, really. And this one, and I remember I told my editor, even if you don't pick this one, I'm gonna make this one like in Canvas for free, even if you don't pick it. So she was like, no, let's take it and let's make it, basically. So all of those experiences brought together, obviously, like the core idea. And then when it was time to find like a place, I was like, yeah, I want it to be like Mexico, but not really, because like I didn't want to like recreate one by one, like one to one Mexico City. Like I've been to Mexico City several times, and enjoy the heck out of it. It's like such a fun city. It's so funny. It's like the toss of a coin. Like you'll be driving through a street that looks like Paris, and then you turn a corner, and the city is like completely different. And like
that's amazing.
there are like, literally high-rise buildings full of neon lights surrounding a literal forest with a castle in the middle. Like
that's so cool.
It's so cool. It's so funny. It's famously said that Salvador Dali, the painter, the surrealist painter, was like, I'm never going back to Mexico. It's way more surreal than my paintings. So I was like, it has to be there. It has to be there. I have to put the two things. And I even put that in the it even influences like the graphic style, because like there are like these peaceful scenes in the day where it's like pastel colors, and like Mexico City is lined with trees, with like jacaranda trees also that are like this beautiful lilac and like greens and blues and everything. And then at night is like neon lights and like purples and pinks, and like it all influence comes back. The influence comes back to the graphic of it. And even like my decision of making like the skies solid purple, and like the onomatopoeias green, like neon green, comes as a nod to the 8M movement, which stands for March 8, which is International Women's Day, and all the protests about the inactivity from the government to find and protect these women that suffer violence, especially in this kind of like situation. So it's all tied back to like, I took all that experience that I had, and I was like, I'm gonna make a story about this.
I think it's so important to have that representation and awareness in media, because there, like you said, there's all this violence going on, and all of these people go missing, and people get used to it, and it's like, what is there to be done about that? So I can totally understand you wanting that cathartic experience of something being done about it, even if it is in a fictional world.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like it's something I can do, because a lot of the time people will message me, and they will ask me, they will be like, I had no idea this was going on in Mexico. What can I do? Is there like a charity that I can donate to and stuff? And a lot of the cases in Cometa are based in real life cases, and as you know, one of the cases was like a charity that was actually like laundering money for the mafia. So I've never know. I'm like, I don't know which charities I can point you to, because that happens a lot. Yeah. And I don't know what I can do. The only thing I can do is like tell stories. I've described it before as like me and a bunch of people in a bunker, just like telling stories so that I can't hear the noise outside. And that's mostly what I can do. It's a little, it makes me feel a little like powerless, but like it's what I can do, honestly.
Yeah. It's definitely can be frustrating when you want to make changes somehow and bring awareness, and it can be really frustrating when it seems like, oh, nothing I do can actually like make a difference and help people. Yeah,
it makes me feel very powerless. But at the very least, one of the things like that I do, and I feel like I am able to do, at least with some people, is like give them a little bit of rest, give them a little bit of like relief. Yes, relief.
Yeah. I had my grandparents served a little backstory for our listeners. My grandparents served an LDS mission in Tijuana, and they had to be, right on the border, and so they had to be in their homes like right before 9 o'clock at night, because it was just too dangerous for them to be walking around and talking to people and knocking on doors. It was just too dangerous for them.
I remember at the peak of it, this was not an experience that I can put in Cometa because Joalco is not like in. It's not written in relation to the border with the United States, and that is very intentional. Um, it I like I said, I used to live in a border state, so it happened one time that we crossed the border just to go shopping, me and a bunch of friends. And that's like a normal thing that you do when you live in the border, right? Like you're like, oh, let's go to the United States and have some Chinese buffet and like go to the mall, buy some stuff, and come back. Um, and we it got late. It got late, so we were like, "Oh no, we gotta rush back home because you shouldn't be out at past 9." So we crossed the border. Oh my god, we crossed the border on the United States side, and we were the last ones to cross, and they closed it behind us. And then we got to there's a bridge, and when we got to the Mexican side, it was already closed. And so when we tried to back away go back to the United States, it was closed already too. So we were like one lonely truck in the middle of on the bridge on the border, and the army swarmed us. Literally, the army swarmed us, like helicopter, tanks on the sides. Come with your hands up high. It was terrible. And when we told them what happened, they were like, okay, we're gonna rush you guys to where you need to go. We're gonna rush you to like, we were all staying in different houses. It was like, no, one house, pick one, and we're gonna rush you there. And it's like, just drive like between like army trucks, like one on the front, one on the back, and a helicopter on top. And literally,
oh my god,
running at like I don't know how many miles per hour through this empty city, like run, go, get out, run. It was insane.
That is terrifying.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
I don't know. A lot of people then ask me like, "Did you go to therapy for that?" And I'm like, I don't know. I just make jokes about it, and I feel like that's like the Mexican way to process this thing. Like I just make jokes about it. Like
yeah,
I was buying Okami then, which is a video game for the Game Boy for the DS, I think. And I was like, every time I play it, I remember that. And every time I see anything Okami, I remember that.
oh my god, I think if I was in that situation, I would probably just cry. Just
you get really close. You get really close, but somehow I'm like really stubborn, and I'm like, I'm not gonna let the soldiers see me cry. I don't know why. I was like, I'm not gonna let them see me cry. I didn't do anything wrong.
That's true. It's like you didn't do anything wrong, but them being so like aggressive and like just intense, just it makes you feel like you did something wrong.
I'm shivering a little just remembering that. Like,
oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
Adrenaline of it. No, it's okay. Just the adrenaline of it. Like, oh god.
Wow. Well, I commend you for staying strong in that situation because I don't know if I would be able to say the same.
Yeah, Mexican people, we are resilient. We are strong.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. So, when we were talking about the main character of Señorita Cometa, she, you kind of built her around this need for justice and to have this like cathartic experience with solving these crimes and these issues. So how did you kind of create her as like a character, as like her personality, her traits, like what went into that?
Well, I had her as a character, kinda like Señorita Cometa was a different kind of story before all this happened. When it was all kind of like peaceful and these things happened in the background and you could just live your life. I had like the story with the thing that was concerning me the most back then, which was like climate change. So it was a lot about like it was a story about like industrialism and capitalism and colonialism. And I had this character that the main character Alex that I had her in my back pocket for a long time, but when all of these issues started coming to the front and became more important to me, I kind of like imported her from that setting to this setting, and I molded her in the kind of person that I needed her to be in order to get this story going. And one of the things that I wanted more was to show was like precisely like the resilience and like the strength of the people who have to go through these situations, and how you never lose like your sense of humor or even use it to cope, and you never lose like this joie de vivre, you know, in your inside, because like that's kind of like when they win, I'm gonna say. um I There are a lot of civilian groups in Mexico, especially mothers who are looking for their missing children, and they are the strongest women you can imagine. They are the things that a lot of men would be afraid to do, the places that a lot of men would be afraid to go in. They go and they search and they
Wow.
ask. There was this brilliant, amazing woman called Miriam Rodriguez, and she's one of my biggest inspirations for like Alex's modus operandi. She was a mother who lost her daughter. She was kidnapped and she was being asked for ransom. And one day she woke up and she had this kind of like dream, because we Mexicans are also very like spiritual, very like
Yeah.
superstitious. And she had like this dream. She was like, I had this revelation that my girl was already dead and I want to catch these people. So her story is incredible. Like she took up disguises, she staked out places, she pretended to be like different government agency employees, like just to get information, to find people. She got a bunch of these people jailed. She got a bunch of like people found. It was incredible. Sadly, her story ends in tragedy, of course.
Oh.
But she was one of the biggest inspirations, and you can find articles about her. It's a really impressive story, but it's a story about strength and about love and about not giving up on your loved ones, and about wanting to have at the very least closure, if not justice, closure. And all of those things I wanted to take. I wanted to make a character that was just as strong and just as resilient, without losing like that joking matter, that smile, that energy, and who is able also to feel her feelings but get back up and do the thing that has to be done.
Yeah, I really love that, just from like an audience perspective, that like, yeah, Alex is strong and she's, she can fight and she's clever and she can figure stuff out, but we can still connect with her on that level, because you did have like those more like human, like relatable characteristics with her as well. And like as a reader, like I think that's really important too, because it kind of helps empower the reader a little bit, give the reader a little bit of inspiration maybe to like you know what I mean, like to
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh yeah, I can take on the world like Alex does.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want nothing more. I want people to feel that catharsis of like, yes, something can be done. I can do it. Maybe I can have the strength. That kind of thing.
I think it's interesting because I said this before, that I hadn't even read your comic until you were like, "Hey, I want to be on the podcast," and I was like, "Oh, let me check out her story," and it makes me sad because it's like there's so many comics like yours on the platform that are just so like important in both representation and the meaning behind the story, and they just don't get pushed like a lot of the same manhwa imports do. Like they're pushing all
Yeah.
these romantasy, very shallow, very surface level stories. And yes, they're beautiful and they can be enticing as a story, but I feel like there needs to be more of a push for stories like yours that just there's a lot more meaning behind it, and it makes me sad that I don't encounter these stories until either somebody brings them to my attention or I find them in happenstance. And I'm just, there needs to be way more effort put into bringing stories like yours to, and I'm not trying to say that nobody else deserves a spotlight, but I'm
Yeah,
saying
no,
there should be
actually.
more effort put towards like at least put Señorita Cometa in like a post on Instagram, you know what I mean? Like at least the bare minimum.
Yeah, I thank you. First of all, thank you so much. I also think it's a little bit unfair, and there might be a little bit of overrepresentation in the romantasy uh genre. But I also kind of get it, because like I'm sorry, I almost switched back to Spanish because she people come to read just to forget and to have fun, and
Yeah.
sometimes they look at like the themes and it's like, I don't want to deal with that right now, I don't have the emotional energy. But to those people I say I understand, but also I have been trying not to make it a really heavy, really like emotionally expensive story to read. I try to keep levity, and I try to keep like happiness and moments of joy and moments of victory even through the worst parts. And I am doing that very intentionally, because most of the stories, when they in with the intention of being respectful about the topic, they forget to bring any humanity, any joy, any victory, any levity like that can be found in the worst of situations. And I think that's kind of like where the lived experience comes in, because I have lived through this and I am able to find levity in the things around me anyway. And I'm trying to translate that feeling. Like there are conversations that Alex has had in the comic that I have had in my real life. And I remember laughing because like my editor told me this conversation is very human, it sounds very real. And I remember thinking, that's a conversation that I had. Conversations like Alex has with Detective Pooch, where she is crying, saying that she doesn't deserve to be having fun and to be like living her life while her friend is missing. It's not fair for her. And then he asks her, is it fair to you though? Is it fair for you? And even conversations that she had with Adan later, where she is overworking herself, and he tells her, you can't keep doing things if you don't take some time to rest. And she's like, I can't rest when things are going this bad. And it's like, yes, you can. Resting is part of the job. Like, and then she says that to the detective. Like, all these conversations, it's conversations that I've had in like my real life, and I'm trying to bring them here, the levity, like, yes, this is serious and I'm trying to be so respectful, but there's also like there has to be a moment where you can relax or break and get up again.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a balance between having something that is relatable and cathartic and represents important subjects like this, and also balance it with the action and the lightheartedness and the victories, because you don't want a whole. I mean, there's of course there's an audience for stories where it's just very like heavy and more of those like serious themes. But I think it's important, especially with the audience that is on Webtoon, is that you do have that balance of, yeah, you can have this representation. You
Mm-hmm.
also need to balance it with the more lightheartedness.
Yeah, and like speaking of representation, I feel like sometimes in an effort to be like respectful of the subject, one of the many, because I think there's like a lot of intersectional problems plaguing representation of Latin American stories specifically. Like most of the media we consume in Latin America comes from, yeah, that has portrayals of Latin America. It's portrayals that come from like foreigners looking outside in, or it's stories that are in relation to the United States, right? Like being an immigrant here, or maybe crossing the border, or like the violence of the cartels, or like that kind of thing. And we consume all of that, and it kind of like these stories that maybe they're plagued with stereotypes or like with negative preconceptions, they kind of like become identity, even for us. So when people in Latin America are trying to make stories, this happens a lot. They set them up. They set them in different places. They're like, I'm gonna put my story in Europe. I'm gonna put my story in the United States. And I'm even like guilty of that because like my first story happens in Europe, and I feel like showing more stories that not only show the struggles but also the strengths, and the stories that show the like the realities but also like the culture and the personality, all of those are the stories that will help the people who come after us with the next story to love their identity enough to be able to share it proudly to the world.
I think that's incredibly important. So, as like as a more lighthearted note, I did want to talk about the art in Señorita Cometa because it is just eye candy to me.
Oh, thank
I
you.
what I love is that you just have such a good eye for a color scheme, and it's kind of hard to have those really vibrant scenes without it being really tiresome to a reader's eyes. So how do you go about like your color palettes? How do you make it all work together?
Well, I love colors like in my daily life. Like one of my favorite seasons, and it's a little bit ruined with climate change, but my favorite season is like summer because light becomes so intense that the contrast is like high everything. So like the blue sky is so blue and the green of the leaves is so green and the colors are so intense. And I really like that in general, but also kind of like I I remember one time when I was like having lunch with my parents. I was like in, I don't know, high school or maybe a little younger, and I remember seeing like this Native American woman selling stuff on the street, and I she had the most beautiful braids, full of all this like colors, colored ribbons like blues and magentas and purples and greens, and I remember falling in love with it and thinking that's it, that's like what the colors, like my identity as a Mexican is colors. And I started paying attention to the things around me, right? Like I don't think there are a lot of countries where you can freely paint your house yellow if you want, but Mexico is one of them. So there's like magenta houses and yellow houses and orange houses, and there's color in everything and everywhere you look. And except on the big cities, right? I always joke in the big cities and kind of like at the border. I always joke there was like this very infamous old president who said, Porfirio Diaz, who said, "Poor Mexico, so far away from God and so close to the United States." So I'm just saying because like in the border you can see the loss of color, kind of like it's happening here in the States where everything is becoming more neutral and stuff. But if you go to the center of it, like to the center of the country, you still can see a lot of color and a lot of, and it's kind of like our identity, like all these colors mixing and clashing and working together. And I do have a background as a graphic designer, so I do have a little bit of knowledge about color theory, but most of the time I'm going with vibes. I'm like, this looks amazing, this looks so good. And like I said, for the night scenes, I am inspired, and like there is Paseo de la Reforma, which is a main street in Mexico City, has like all these buildings lining up at the edges, and there's like this beautiful building, which is the building that Alex jumps off from in like episode 1, which is a bank. It's the Torre BBVA in real life, and it's got this neon lights projected all through the side, and it looks insane and beautiful. And I remember standing down there and thinking, I want my comic to look like this. And so it's a little bit of like playing with the contrasts, right? Because like I said, like just like Mexico City has like so many like faces that you can see one at a time. It's like during the day I use these pastels that are like the rest, kind of like resting moment, right? Like and there is no blood, there is no jumping scare, there is no rushing, there is no chases, but like then at night it all happens, and it's like this other side, like the neons and the pinks, and like yeah, most of the time, like I remember I took, when I was in pre-production for Señorita Cometa, I remember I took so long to put together a color palette, because I do have a color palette where like for the characters and for the backgrounds and for the background characters and for the night scenes. And I remember my friends were like, do you have episode 1 already? Can I read it? And I'm like, no, I'm still working on the color palette. And they're like, oh my god, just give it up. And even so, while I was making it, like between season 1 and 2, I had already added more colors. And I was like, no, I'm gonna use this one and that one instead. And yeah, it kind of like grew with me, but it was mostly like vibes and that liking of like really high contrasts, like the colors in summer and like this really saturated colors that mean Mexico to me.
Yeah, I just love the usage of color in it, because I kind of am shy about colors in my own comic. I don't make them like super vibrant, so I really appreciate that you can do it so well. And I'm just like, I need to do that.
Just push your contrasts, girl. That's all you have to do. Just push your contrasts. You will make everything else radiant. You'll see.
Got it. So when you're in that pre-production phase, not only were you like still figuring out your colors, but what were you thinking about when, like with the story? How were you wanting to approach those first 3 episodes? Because they're the most important episodes on Webtoon, at least.
Yeah.
So what was the thought process with those?
Well, I went through several stages. I remember my editor, she was like, I usually only work on romance. Do you want to work with me, or do you want to work with someone else? And I was like, I know you already. You know me. You know how I work. Let's stick together. And I remember she showed me the first episode of Jungle Juice. And she was like, she was like, you should do something like this. I was like, and then I started counting the panels, and it was like, it's like 3 episodes in one. Like, that's how long it is. And I was like, so a long episode. Gotcha. And then we started like brainstorming. Like, for a second, I thought about starting it like in medias res, which means like in the middle of the story. I was thinking like in the middle of a heist with the whole team already there. And I'm going to show like the team like in shadows. And because I have the whole thing. I am a planner. I am like, I need to know what happens beginning, middle, and end before I start drawing. So I was like, I'm gonna start like immediate res, and then it's gonna be like that kind of moment, like, oh no, this all started a couple of months ago, and then we go back so that we can have this really punchy like episode with a lot of action and a big cast and like really exciting things and stuff. But as I was drawing it just wasn't working. It just wasn't working like that. It felt a little bit like that meme with the record scratch, like, yeah, that's me. I bet you're wondering how I got here. So I was like, it's not clicking with me. And I decided that I was like, okay, I think starting with a heist is the way to go, because this is gonna be like a Phantom Thief situation, and I love that trope. I know a lot of people like just got into it because Persona 5 came out, but it's been a trope like forever, and it's one of my favorites. And it's always like you need to start basically with the bank's like alarm going off, and you see the Phantom Thief work their magic. So I was like, I need to do that. I need to start with a heist. So instead we started, that's how we decided to start with that heist. And originally, like the 3 episodes, the 3 first episodes were 1 episode, because that's what I took from the Jungle Juice thing. I was like, okay, big shots, big vertical action, and like a really long episode. Gotcha. And when I sent it like to my editor, she was like, this is so long. And I was like, that's what you wanted. And she was like, no, let's put it in 3 and we have our 3 episodes. And I was like, perfect.
Done.
Yeah. So I made it all like it was a single episode, and then I cut it in pieces.
I never would have guessed reading it.
Yeah, no, I just made it like a whole thing. And I one of the things that I remember I really wanted was like to have this music theme playing. And I love big band jazz. I love it. I blame Nintendo for it because Nintendo has been putting big band jazz in their pieces like forever. And like that kind of like slightly 60s inspired like spy kind of music like I'm a spy from Security Hall from like the Sonic games, like Sonic Adventure, which is like Rogue's theme. I'm a gamer, I'm sorry. And or like Lupin the Third's theme or that kind of thing. And I was like, it has to have music. It has to have music because the vibe is like the music, like the Phantom Thief vibe is this. So I went looking for a musician like that would take commission and would like compose for a big band. And I already had worked with friends of mine who are musicians. And when I got to them like, hey, do you think you could make a big band? And they were like, Are, I love you. I can't do this. And I was like, that's fair. That's fair. So I scoured the internet until I found on TikTok, because he duetted a dog. Oh my god, a jazz musician that was writing for big band, and he would play like so many of the instruments. And I was like, I sent him an email. He had a web page. I sent him an email like a Hail Mary, like, can you please do commission work? And he was like, sure, what are you thinking about? Because usually apparently he got like work like, oh, like a sax solo for this song and right in the middle or something like that. And I was like, no, I want it like a full piece. And I wanted to record it like with a band. And so he got a band and with all his friends, and he started playing like he recorded the song, and it was insane. I remember I was listening to it. Yeah, I remember he sent it to me like the first time. I was listening to it with my arm, like my hands in my head, like, like this is perfect. And I was like, this is gonna be it. I'm gonna put it, and I was like, I'm gonna put it in every heist episode I can. Every time there's a music note, people are going to know that's a heist. And so I kind of took like that Persona 5 approach where you make like when you are ready to fight the boss, like the music for the whole palace like is the main theme, like the song like what is it called? Times Will Change or something like that. And I was like, this is our boss music. This is our palace music.
Yeah.
And I wanted to establish that like from day one. So we got the music from day one to have like this, so we could have the whole identity complete, right? Like the neon colors, the heist, and the jazz music. And I was like, this is it. Perfect.
That's incredible. Wow. I'm so glad that you found somebody who could just totally deliver on the exact vibes that you wanted and like the composition.
It was so funny because I was looking for jazz musicians on TikTok, like specifically, and I was served that video, not even looking for it, but later I guess my algorithm was like, oh, she wants jazz, okay, and she likes dog videos, okay. And so I got like a duet of him like doing a sax riff to like a dog that stood up on the piano and just pressed random chords that sounded vaguely jazzy. And I was like, this is it. This is the man. He's a genius. Like if he can do it a dog, like if he can do it a dog, he can do this. He can do anything.
That's amazing. Oh, I love it. I wish Canvas creators had that option to just at least add some like license-free music into their comics, but alas, we're not fortunate enough.
I know, that's so unfair. It's so unfair. There are a lot of comics in Canvas that would benefit from having, at the very least, some like a library of music or anything, you know?
Something license free. Yeah, even just a library, like at least let me add the vibes.
Yes, exactly. The music really does it. Although I know a lot of people prefer to read it without music, and that's valid too.
I like the music. I like it definitely can help set the tone. But I understand that a lot of people also don't want music while they're reading.
Oops, give me a sec. Oh, my cat just threw up. My cat just
Oh
threw
my
up.
gosh.
Give me 1 sec. I'm so sorry. I'll be right back.
So, and you're back.
Thank you. Sorry for that.
So I did want to ask you, because I just love asking other creators these questions, but I really want to know, who are the webtoon creators that really inspire you? Who are your favorites?
Oh my gosh. I could gush about so many people.
Please do.
Okay, well, right now I am obsessed with Jhoger Sketch. His last webtoon,
Spectral Bonds.
Yes!
Oh, so good.
I mean, I love his coloring, the character expression,
Yes.
the character acting, the paneling, the research he
Yes.
does for like the ghosts, the
Yes.
backgrounds that he has to make. Like, I am floored every time, every episode. Floored. I also love Otto's High Spirit Neoma.
High Spirit Neoma, yeah!
Yes! Oh my god! Yes, like the character design's incredible. Like,
oh, amazing.
I feel like the dialogue is like so naturalistic that it feels like something you would like listen over here on the street. Like, the fashion sense, the sense of humor, and like the stories, when the tragedies of the stories, like everything, like the very real family dynamic thing. Like, oh my god, it's just poof. And like, yeah, there's also like, I don't know if you've read it, but like it's called Blood Ink. It's by Lupicut, and oh my god, it's like, it's full of like action. It's like set in Southeast Asia. It's like full of action and like intrigue, and it's like he makes you love his characters, and then you pay the price for it, because it's like so real and so cruel, and so like all the crime, like, but it's so smart. Like, it's so smartly written. I love Blood Ink so much. And then there's also like, I don't know if you've read it, but like The Eagle and the Snake by Angel Tovar. The Eagle and the Snake by Angel Tovar. I always joke that it's like Señorita Cometa's grown cool cousin, like grown up cool cousin.
Yeah.
we touch like similar kind of like themes, but like his art, I don't know how he does it on a weekly basis, is insane. His art is insane. The action is incredible. It's like something you would see in Hollywood. Train chases, car chases, like martial art fights, gun fights, and it's all like set in like California, and it also has to do with like cartels and drug trafficking rings and a bunch of things, and it gets like intense. It's so good. It's already done if you want to like binge read it from beginning to end. It's incredible. It like, I don't know how he did it. And then on the Latin American side, because I also read like the comics that are in Spanish, I read Xulel by Rizum Monchis, and it's like so expressive. It's also set in Mexico, but that one's Mexico actually, and so it's really funny that sometimes we set like our stories in the same places, because that one's in Mexico City too, and like there's like, it's like magic, like, because like I said, like, we Mexicans are really like superstitions and spirituals and everything, and there's like these shapeshifter people in Mexico called nahuales, so that they transform to animals and stuff. So it's kind of like action magical girl fruits basket, I'm gonna say it like that. It's incredible. And there's also like a friend of mine just became an original in Latin America called No Escape, Hibarin's No Escape. And
congrats to them.
She knows how to keep the audience. Like, it's like she knows what the audience wants, and she not only like serves it, but like hypnotizes you with it. And like she uses so many like animated panels that are like, oh my god.
What?
Yeah. And then there's like it was very short lived. It's been on hiatus forever. But there was also like a webtoon called Royale by like Emmett Hobbs, and
Mm.
it's very like European in the paneling, in the style, in like and the characters are like queer and interesting, and they have like this really special like superpower. So if you like the European kind of style panelings, there are like breathtakingly beautiful panels
Mm.
in that comic. And I'm so sad that it's been like on hiatus forever, but I get it. This is a very easy job to burn out in. Um so and there's also like Puig's Hiding in the Moon. I'm reading that
Yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he uses like so many also anime
Oh,
panels and like the intrigue and the
so good.
romanticization and like
Mm-hmm.
Xiomara's character is like I love it. It's so many. I tell you, I could go for hours. Like I really encourage people to like give Western originals a chance because they're doing amazing things. Amazing
Yeah.
things.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's in the water in Latin America and even in the Philippines. There's so many talented people everywhere. I'm just like it
Yes,
blows my
yes.
mind.
I'm like, it's so inspiring. It's so fun. It's like I see Jhoger Sketches panels and I'm like, I need to up my game. This is incredible. I want to
Right.
draw this. I always find like that situation where I'm like, I wish I had come up with this because I want to draw this exactly like a draw this in my style kind of thing. Like I want to redraw
Yeah.
this panel. It's so good.
Yeah, I think a lot of I'll get people with these questions a lot where they're like, I don't know how to draw a webtoon. I don't know where to start. I think some of the best advice is just for those people to go read webtoons, but not
Mm-hmm.
just like read them, but like study them. Sit down, observe a an episode or a few episodes of a comic that you really like with whatever art style or genre and just study how they compose their panels, try to see how they vary their panels in length and composition, how do
Yes.
they showcase emotions, and what do they do with character design. So there's a lot to be said about if you want to learn how to draw a webtoon, go observe and try to study up on a lot of other webtoons. And, you know,
Absolutely. It's like in graphic design. It's all part of
yep,
like a visual problem. Like the problem is I have to say this story. How are other people solving this problem? And what does that
yep,
tell me about how I'm gonna solve my problem? So it's
yep.
very much you need to have a mental library of the thing, but not consuming it passively. I think it's valid to do it like a one passive pass and maybe let yourself like enjoy it naturally so that when you come back you can be and read it again you can be like why did I enjoy this part so much, why did
Yeah,
it work
yeah.
so well, and so you read it again and then you read it again and then you check it and then you study it and then you listen to like people who know what they're talking about. There's a lot of like people who have education that are willing to share it on YouTube for free while analyzing their own favorite media, and you can learn so much from them. Like whenever I know there's like reaction content can be like very passe because sometimes it's just people going like on the side, but there are a couple of people that are like experts on their area that I've learned so much even for these things because I don't do parkour but Alex does. So there was for example a shot in one of the episodes that I don't think has come out for free yet, but there was a shot where I needed like to draw Alex jumping off a building, and I was like, oh, I want to make this like very visually like since it's so far away it has to be like one arm in the front, one arm on the back, in the legs like a bicycle. And I was like, yeah, maybe I should do that. And then I started like passively listening to videos in the background like I usually do. And I got one that was like parkour specialists react to this parkour video game. And there was a similar jump in that parkour video game. And the character was like jumping with his legs together and his arms like this, like an eagle. And I was like, that's not very pretty, but they were like, oh my god, that is absolute perfect form, that's how you should do it if you know what you're doing. And then he broke that to do the whole thing that I was trying to do, and they were like, oh no, he lost it, no, that's not how you do it. And I was like, if I hadn't listened to these guys that know what they're talking about, I would have made the same mistake just to make it visually like pretty, and it's for free on the internet. Just listen to it instead of, I don't know, watching reaction content that's like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yep. I think there's just a lot to be learned if you just kind of go out of your way and try to, because Webtoons is becoming, well, it's become like pretty mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's still a lot of people that don't even know Webtoons. Like sometimes I'll like talk to a random person, somehow we get on the topic of Webtoons and they're like, what's that? But there's still a lot of content out there that people are putting out where they're talking about how to, like my entire podcast, I have bringing creators on and we talk about how they make their Webtoons. Because I was like, I wish this was around when I was first starting. And so I want to bring that knowledge to other people. And I think there's a lot to be learned from not just professional creators like you, but even just Canvas creators. Like they have so much skill and knowledge, and I think you can learn from a lot of different sources. So that all to be said, if you want to make a webtoon, the other thing that people say all the time that when I ask them this question is, when should you make a webtoon? And what do you say to that?
Well, I think you can. It would be irresponsible and a little hypocritical of me to be like, make it whenever, because like sometimes, like I said, life gets in the way and you can't do it. But I really think that if you're like in school, I think that you have more free time in school than you do when you have a job sometimes.
Yeah.
So you should try, even if you're in school and you're like, I'm not, you should try to start like as soon as you can. Because no matter how soon you start, you're always going to be like, I wish I had started sooner. Like, really, that's how it is usually. And like, I think as you, if I could like give any advice, like specific advice, it would be like start like as soon as you can, considering like, but also be kind to yourself. Like if you can't do it right now, don't be harsh to yourself about it. But once you start, you have, before you start even, I would say set up like a specific goal in your mind when you're going to start a webtoon. So like fun fact, I actually gave a conference about this in the university once, and
interesting.
I still hold this, like, I think very close to my heart, because I think if you start your story without setting up a goal for yourself, you're never going to be satisfied because you're not achieving anything. So let's say if your goal is to be hired by Webtoon no matter what, then you're going to be like, okay, well, I'm gonna study what they want, what the kind of stories that they're choosing. I'm gonna study like the things that, because it's a market. Like as much as art is art, this is like marketing. So you study that. Or if your goal is like, I just want to put my story out there and let people read it, then that's your goal, and you put it out. Like there are no bad goals. If your goal is like, I want to make money, and so I'm gonna make this really, I don't know, fan servicey story that points to my Patreon or something, like there, as long as you know what you're doing, you're going to be able to find a goal, and that goal is going to keep you going whenever you reach it. Like sometimes I feel very tired and very alienated because of this whole thing, the webtoon grind. But my goal was, with this story, was to reach the people who needed to see this story and have some peace. So whenever I hear from a reader that is like, actually, like, I am like, I'm missing, I know I'm never gonna get back my dad, but I want Lola to come back home, and I'm reading because I hope she's gonna come back home, and this is making me feel good. And I have a good cry about it. I curse everybody that has been involved in that, but it lets me know that I am hitting my goal, and that gives me the strength to move on. And sometimes if you're like, oh, I want to like create a good story, but actually what you want is to be hired. Like when you don't get hired, even if you're creating the story that you wanted, then you're going to feel heartbroken, because in reality what you wanted was to get hired. So you need to have to really sit down with yourself and make like an honest to God goal in your head. What am I going to do with this? And that, I think that's like the first thing. And the second thing is that you have to be curious about the like your surroundings and people, and learn why things are the way they are. Not only like not only things of the trade, like why do they use this kind of shot for these situations, or like why don't they use that, why don't they use Dutch shots for every shot? Oh, it's supposed to make it only when the situation feels unstable. Got it. Stuff like that. Not only that, but also like a little bit of architecture, a little bit of fashion, a little bit of like culture. Because you can't make a character and be like, oh, she's a fashion student, and you draw her and she's wearing a green t-shirt and jeans, and you're like, if you have the internet, if you Google like New York City fashion student, you're gonna see the kind of things that they are wearing, because that's the kind of culture that they have. And it's like, it doesn't even have to be like a different culture, like, oh, I want to see what, I don't know, like people in Peru, or it's also subcultures, and it's also identity cultures. And architecture things like, oh, I am setting my background, like my fantasy story in a kingdom where it snows, and you're like, okay, so you're gonna have like these kind of roofs. I don't know how they're called in English. Like in Spanish, we say de dos aguas, because the snow it gets accumulated in these ones. So like, oh, okay, that's why like snow houses. I don't know what they're called. Like cabins in the mountains have these kind of roofs so that they don't cave in, so the snow falls down. That kind of thing. You have to be curious about those things so that you can create a story that feels real in a world that feels real and that helps with people, right? I know it's not all of them, because a lot of people can bypass these things. A lot of people can see like a Rococo castle with like 1920s dresses, and they're like, no, it's fine. But it does improve, like it sets your story apart, it sets your work apart if the reader can tell that you put a lot of care behind of it. And like the last thing that I would say is that you have to start small, because a lot of people like to start with what they believe it's their magnum opus, and it's gonna be 1,000 chapters, and I'm gonna have this cast of 23 main characters, and all of them have this really complex story, and then they're gonna have children and stuff. And I'm like, that's really cool that you have all this world built, but draw one episode and like see if you want to be doing this forever. Basically, there are people who can, there are people who will. One Piece has been running for 20 years because he can do that. But there are people who can't. Like when I was doing my first comic, I finished it in like 120 episodes, and I remember I was thinking like, I want to draw any other character except these two. I'm so done. I want to tell a different story. I wish I had started small. And one of the things about starting small is that you create habits. You test to see like if your audience is there, or what you could do well, or what you could do better, what you need to learn, because you don't even know what you don't know. Like I didn't know that I was going to need to learn how to draw older gentlemen, or like guys that are buff, or things like that. And so I didn't know that I needed to do that until I was already sat down drawing, and I was like, oh, I guess I gotta do some studies on old people. So start small, see if it's for you, make a specific goal, be curious about your surroundings, just go out, sit down, people watch the people going around you, and be like, oh, so that's like how, I don't know, a belly hangs over a waistline, or like that is how people walk, that is how people stand. Because a lot of that can be translated into your art, and you don't have to be like, oh, I'm gonna be looking for references of people standing up and it's all models posing, so your character looks like a model posing instead of looking like a normal person standing there, right? Like, it's just all about being curious and about developing habits and about having a specific goal.
I think you hit the nail on the head. That's all stuff that I wish somebody told me when I first started my webtoon journey. And I'm still learning. I'm still learning all the time, and
Yeah,
I
we
feel
all
like I
are,
have.
and that's like that's the coolest part. I don't know, maybe I'm a nerd, but I like learning things. I like when people tell me something that I didn't know, and I can be like, "Wow, I didn't know that. Tell me more. I want to." Like, it's cool. Learning is cool.
Yeah, I think it's amazing that I can sit here being the host of the podcast and learn while my guest is just talking, and it's incredible. And I'm just like, oh, yeah, yeah, those are good points. Oh my God, I never thought about it that way. It's just very rewarding to be able to learn and be okay with not knowing how to do something, right?
Absolutely. I think it is part of like your character growth as an artist, because sometimes when we're younger we're like, it's my style, this is how I draw, or like, this is how my world works. But it's much more interesting when you are able to be like, okay, I get it, this part I didn't know, you are covering my blind spot, now I'm gonna learn from you. And that's how we grow. We're like, we're standing in the shoulders of giants already, so we might as well learn more and build more as a community of artists. And now the internet is like here forever, so you can just find the knowledge and just take advantage of it.
Yeah, it's a crazy time period we're in where people can make a living with art, and you have the internet and you have all the knowledge
Yeah, all the
that
knowledge
you'd
and all
want if you
the
want to learn it.
absolutely. Like, you have no idea how much of my browsing history is Google Maps. Just me going up and down one street trying to 3D model it, because this is the street where this happens in Señorita Cometa, and now I'm 3D modeling from reference. And I think back to those like specials that used to come with like Disney movies, where it was like, and animators would go 3 months to China to try and get the architecture of the, and it's like, that's really cool. And you can do now with Google Maps. Just go there and be like, oh, this is the street that I want, okay, I'll do it, this is how it works, stuff like that. Like, the information is just there, you can just get it.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So before we end today, I did want to just ask you one last question.
Mm-hmm.
What would you love to tell your fans?
Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you so much. Like, for reading, for finding my work, for giving it a chance. I don't know if it was destiny or a miracle that we met through this little story, but I just want you all to know that you bring me so much joy and comfort and happiness, and I hope that I'm able to give you a little bit back too.
Beautiful. Well, Arechan, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I love talking to you. I was sitting here just learning so much from you. So thank you for blessing me today.
No, thank you for giving me a spot in your podcast, and like, yeah, for helping me spread the word about the comic.
Yeah, I love just bringing on creators, and I love because I can learn from so many people. Like, it's not even just like originals creators. It's like I love people. Like, I'll find people on Canvas and they'll be like, "Hey, can I put you on my podcast?" And they'd be like, "Huh?" Like, yes, please, come on.
Yeah, it's really cool because
you.
you're helping bring this information to everybody. So now the information is out there. More people are learning. More people are sharing.
Yes,
It's great.
That is the goal. To again, I wish I had something like this when I was first starting my webtoon journey, and so I'm glad I can help people if they want to learn, and bring people on the podcast that have a lot of experience in it and share their knowledge and give them a platform to talk.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me.
So where can people find you online?
So on everywhere I can, I am Arechan at Arecanga, which is Arechanga. So I'm Arechanga on TikTok, I'm Arechanga on Instagram and on Blue Sky. I used to be on X, I'm not there anymore. You can find me on Blue Sky. And of course, I'm Arechan on Webtoon, so you can check my creator profile over there and read all my comics. I also stream from time to time using Lottie as an avatar. And that's on Twitch, Lottie Holo with X, like LOTTIEXOLO. BT, like VTuber, like VT. And yeah, I stream sometime from the there from time to time, so you can check it out. We have fun. We talk about the episodes. We play games.
Perfect. Yeah, I will include all of your links in our show notes. So everybody, if you want to go check out Ari-chan, go follow her on Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, and go check out Señorita Cometa on Webtoon. Go read Luff. She has, I think you have several other.
Yeah, I have another one.
Comics
Faust,
in there.
My first baby Faust.
Yeah. So go follow her. She's amazing. Go read her comics. I mean, I was really upset that I didn't know about Senorita Cometa until she wanted to be on the podcast. So give it a chance. I highly recommend it. Yeah. Oh, and go check out the creators that she also mentioned.
Oh my god!
Go check out Jhoger Sketch, like all of them. Yes, highly recommend check out those comics. I'll link them in the show notes too if you're really curious.
Oh yes, please. I hope you guys have fun with it because they're amazing, all of them.
Absolutely, yeah. All right, so if you found this podcast informative or entertaining, give us a like, give us a follow. We are on Spotify. You can watch us on YouTube. You can follow us on Instagram at the Webtoon Wave to stay up to date on future guests and all Webtoon content related. So stay creative, stay inspired, and we'll see you next time.